Hello, my name is Gavin. I come from a generation called Generation X, and I like to bitch and moan about millennials because they like to bitch and moan. However, I think it's important to focus today on the worst generation, the baby boomers. If you were born between 46 and I believe 64, you were part of that massive surge of a rebirth that happened after World War II, and you are very likely a fucking dink. I like a lot of baby boomers. My parents are very cool, but my parents hate baby boomers. In fact, they're the ones who got me thinking about this horrible, vile, disgusting, selfish, overindulgent, immature, retarded generation. Here are 10 reasons why baby boomers are, as Paul Begala pointed out, the worst. Number one, what the hell are their jobs? They're all consultants. Every time you ask a baby boomer what you do, or what they do, sorry, they go, oh, I'm a consultant. And then they have this, you go, what does that mean? And they always have this really patronizing definition where they go, well, a group of people are trying to make something, and then I talk to the manufacturer, and I help them sort of facilitate the deal. Oh, so you're an irrelevant middleman? I mean, unless you're a translator, we don't need you to tell the manufacturer how to make the thing the guy wants to. What are you doing there? Hi, Barb, this is Andy. He's going to be making your grapple grummets. Go have at it, guys. Oh, they want to pay less. Okay. Your job doesn't exist. Most of your careers are fake careers. I don't understand why you get paid. Number two, they can't use cutlery. Now, I think this is because they grew up with people from the Great Depression, people who were starving to death. So they would just grab food. Like if a baby, you never said to a baby during the Great Depression, eat your food. If the baby didn't want it, you go, thank God, and you would eat it. So they made the baby boomers food idiots. And when you see them eat, this is how you eat. I'm not a snob. You don't have to have, your soup spoon here and your teaspoon there or whatever, but this is how you eat. You put your thing on the back of the fork, you go like that, and you eat like that. It's a very efficient way. Even if it's rice, you can pile it up with the fork. They don't know how to use a fork and a knife. They act like some fresh off the boat Chinese guy who's just put down his chopsticks for the first time. And you'll see them, you look over when you're eating, and they're always going like this with the steak, like they're trying to murder it or something. What the fuck are they doing? At the very best, they'll make their fork like a spoon and sort of scoop food, and then they're always like, they're animals. Number three, they ruined education. You know these social justice warriors that you see talking all this bullshit about feminism and triggering? That goes back to the 60s. You see, all this cultural Marxism and what the hell is it called? Postmodern critical theory, all that stuff comes from hippies. The hippies couldn't get jobs, so they ended up teaching kids, and then they started shaping education, and they made this fake education with fake words. I mean, if you got to read a college paper or read any academic's latest book, and it's written in a new magical language that the baby boomers invented. When they went to school, it was the greatest generation, right? The World War II types. Even if you went to art school, as Dan Clowes pointed out in Art School Confidential, if you went to art school, you'd know how to do like the cover of a Harlequin romance or something. You learned the basics. Even art school was hard, and you left with a trade. Today, art school, you put a tampon in a teacup. You put a tampon in a teacup. You get $60,000 of debt, and it's totally impossible to employ you because you actually know less than when you went in. Thanks for that, boomers. They also invented feminism. That's number four. The old feminists, the greatest generation feminists, they fought for the right to work. The new feminists, the baby boomers, invented this thing where women are men, where Sally Fields is smoking a cigar and Burt Reynolds is doing knitting. That's the reason that we have to watch all these movies where, as Nick DiPaolo said, he goes, I don't know if I can watch Angelina Jolie beat the crap out of 6 Navy SEALs again. I mean, my suspension of disbelief just can't take it anymore. And by the way, you made women miserable with all this fake made-up women or men crap. You told them that being in the kitchen and breeding makes them losers. So now they're in here with us going, what am I doing here? Thanks, bitches. Number five, we stopped a war, man. We stopped a war. First of all, almost none of you were hippies. There's this assumption that all the baby boomers were hippies. I'm going to say barely 5% were hippies. And Nixon was not tuned in to what you guys were saying about him. He hated hippies. If anything, he would do something just to spite you. You didn't end the war, okay? The media ended the war. We hadn't seen those kind of images telecast live before. We'd have never seen teenagers come back in coffins on our home TV. The media ended the war. And by the way, you were the ones who were calling them baby killers when they came back from the war. You are pretending you had the soldiers' backs. You were the first generation ever to shit on war vets. Number 6, they invented the self. The whole concept of self. Are you happy? Yeah, I divorced my wife. I just wasn't happy. Yeah, I had to quit my job. I wasn't happy. The greatest generation never talked about that. You'd say, how are you doing to a man working the docks in the 1930s? And he'd say, what? I don't know. His whole existence was predicated on, is his wife happy? Are his kids fed? He never talked about himself. He didn't take Xanax to go to sleep at night. He didn't have a therapist. He never thought about himself. He just got out of bed, went to work, came home, read the paper. Self is a baby boomer construct, and it has ruined Western civilization because it spawned the me generation. Number 7, and I alluded to this earlier, they invented divorce. I remember my parents stayed together, but I remember having all these dads sleep on my couch when I was a kid. And I remember even as a 10-year-old in 1980 going, this seems like a really doomed experiment. And you'd see these miserable guys. They always stank up the couch, by the way, with that weird dad smell. You know, they'd have like polyester slacks on and brown socks, and they'd have on those white shirts with the short sleeves, and they had like B.O., beer, pee kind of a smell, and it would be on your couch after this dad smell. And then they would always inevitably, after ruining the family and traumatizing the kids, they'd end up marrying a chick who looks just like the chick that they dumped. Because they're stupid, self-indulgent babies that didn't get fellatio enough and thought it was a good reason to end everyone's life. Number 8. They eat shitty food. They don't know anything about food. You think they eat bad with the cutlery? Look at what they make. You go to some baby boomer's house, which, by the way, is a gigantic mansion he bought for $50,000 that is now worth $4 million. And I'd love to go off at a tangent on how they started this whole real estate crisis and made things like you buy a $350,000 house, and by the time you're done paying it off, you've paid $780,000. That's them too, but that's a whole other video I'll get to another day. It's very easy to prove they ruined education, and it's even easier to prove that they don't know anything about food. Like, you'll go to this massive mansion, right? And, oh, it's a Kentucky Derby party, and everyone's dressed all fancy, and ooh, la-di-da, this is a nice place. And then you go, I'm going to get something to eat. There's a giant tray with just these huge buns this big, 98% bun, with tons and tons and tons of butter, and then a piece of bologna, like we're in jail or something at a bread factory. And you just go, I don't want this. Can you even toast it or something? I mean, I don't want to sound like fucking Little Lord Fauntleroy, but eating a giant bun with a piece of bologna is what we do to convicts so they don't return to the tombs. That's the jails in Manhattan. They don't know anything about food because their parents are from the Great Depression. But, you know, I grew up middle class. I figured out food. I didn't go to a culinary school. Fucking look it up. Number 9. I don't understand this, baby boomers, but why can you not load the dishwasher? Speaking of, again, I never went to dishwasher school. I never took a night course. It's intuitive, right? There's all these shelves that go like that. You put the plate at an angle. There's jets down there. But no, that wastes too much electricity. No, it doesn't. You have the hot water running, okay? That's more electricity. The way a dishwasher works is it heats up the water, the same water, and then it uses that same water to spray it at your plates. It's a brilliant invention that is way more efficient than you with that gross, old, wet rag. By the way, moms, when you wipe your kid's face with that rag, you're just wiping garbage smell all over our face. And they have that cold little Tupperware thing that plates sit in for hours, and then they fucking sit there leaning over the sink, washing them, thinking they're saving thousands of dollars. At the very best, it's on par with the price of washing dishes in a dishwasher. But it is very likely that it's way more expensive. Just figure it out, okay? Look at where the jets are, load the dishwasher. And by the way, the cutlery points up, not down. When you put the cutlery down in that cage, the jets don't get to it. What do people do when they want to see a shark? They go in a cage because the shark can't get to them. The jets can't get to this. They can only get to this. Number 10. They preach diversity, but they don't practice it. Now, if there's one thing that really burns one's ass about being preached to, it's when the person is throwing those stones from a glass house. You talk about multiculturalism, you live in an all-white area, you send your kids to all-white schools, but you tell the rest of us we need to be more diverse. We're plenty diverse, thanks, okay? Don't tell us how to live our fucking lives. And if you're going to preach something, maybe try it just once. Do you understand what you've done here, baby boomers? Your invention of divorce has traumatized my generation. Almost none of my friends have kids. I looked them up on Facebook. I don't care if we're talking city, urban, rural, suburban. None of them have kids. You know why? Because you traumatized them with your stupid divorce. You also encumbered them with debt by giving them these stupid fake educations that cost an arm and a leg. You know, when I went to school, I could pay for it myself because it was $1,700 a year. Now in New York, you're lucky to pay 40 grand a year. They're all 160 to 100 grand in debt for a fake education that you created. You've hamstrung them. And by the way, your open borders crap has made them unable to work. You killed their economic libido. So they're sitting on the couch and all they know how to do is eat. That's child abuse. Your entire generation should be indicted for child abuse. And that is why the baby boomers are the worst generation ever.